YouTube, good morning. This is going to be short. Try to keep it under 15 minutes because I don't have a ton of new information, but I do have a major point. I am not going to be able to go to Cebu in April. This is a recent learning, and I've got mixed feelings about it. The long and short of the story is that I was building my vacation around my ex-wife's vacation, since she was going to be taking my daughter and my daughter's grandmother, the girls' trip, on a cruise in mid-April. I was going to go to the Philippines that same week, but it looks like her trip is going to get delayed. The moral of the story is that when kids, I guess I haven't looked this up myself, but I guess that when kids hit 11, they need their own passports for international travel. Um, and my daughter doesn't have a passport yet. Now, her mom has been trying to coordinate a meeting at the post office to get it set up. But my travel schedule, her travel schedule, it has not been easy to get a date. So she doesn't anticipate having the passport in time for the April trip, which means that I'm not going to take a week off that I would get to spend with my daughter. The whole point is take advantage of the time that my daughter is going to be gone anyway to do some international travel. So what that means is I've got to work on figuring out when this international vacation that my kid's mom is going on is going to happen. What she has said is she's thinking more around the June timeframe, so we'll see. And yeah, that means I have to think about what this is going to do to me and my trips, but I'm not going to be going in April. So the bad news is no April trip. I had been doing a lot of research, and I'll admit, just learning about the Philippines, some of the interesting tourist destinations that I could visit was a lot of fun. What wasn't fun was doing it in a bit of a hurry. And I was pulling together something very quickly because I'd be leaving, I guess, about 5 weeks. And I like to typically, dig in and do a little bit more research than I had the opportunity to do for this. But I did have a couple of locations that I'm going to visit no matter when I go. The opportunity here is that if I'm going to go in June, I have more time to really think through my itinerary, my plan. Landing in Cebu, I think, still makes a lot of sense. I think that I need to figure out how much time I want to spend in Manila. I was only going to give myself about 2 days for kind of that Manila, Manila, Quezon City space, which probably wasn't doing it justice. This would give me more time to think through how much time I want to be in Cebu, how much time I want to be in Manila. I could also even look at Thailand because it's not too hard to get to Thailand um, from the Philippines. They're pretty close. Um, Actually, that could be. Well, we'll tackle that later. That could be an interesting excursion, but it's going to depend on how much total time I have there. One thing I do want to point out that was helpful to me could be interesting for other travelers, and also gives a chance to promote someone else's channel who helped me. There's a podcaster called The Regular Guy. He tells stories about his time in the Philippines. He's basically spent his life kind of traveling back and forth between Canada and the Philippines, um, seeing the local sites, dating the local women. He was very helpful to me as I was doing some research. I talked to him about potentially wanting to meet him when I was there, kind of day one, get a lay of the land, uh, tricks of the trade, so to speak. And we started exchanging emails back and forth. One of the things that he told me that was very helpful, although slightly disappointing, was that 8 days is a short trip, and I might not be able to really get to sink my teeth into it the way I want, given the time. There's, kind of a trade-off. If you're going to a country where the women are a little bit more traditional, then you need to understand that they're going to date a little bit more traditionally. If you're moving to the Philippines and you're going to be there a long time, you are a hot commodity to the women who are there because you're offering stability. If you're just going to be there for a week, well, you might get side eyed a bit as women say, okay, where is this really going to go? That you're a great guy, but you're just not going to be here that long. So I don't want to get invested in something that's going to fizzle out, in 8 days. And that was interesting perspective because, when I was, if I want to get, when I was in Indonesia, admittedly, I didn't date locals. I met, you'd meet people who were travelers like yourself. So nobody was looking for anything long term because everybody was going back home to wherever they were from. So it was just a different, attitude towards dating and the interactions. It's a positive for the Philippines for sure, that level of traditionalism. But it does force me to think about, the trip. How long do I actually want to stay there? What would that look like? Something that's interesting is just the notion of the Philippines as a retirement area. I don't know if this is what I would do or not, but the pace of life there is more relaxed. Kind of the whole idea of getting out of the matrix. There's an appeal to that that I have to admit is growing on me. Guys going over there and saying, what do I want my retirement life to look like? Being retired in the States, not necessarily, let's face it, once you retire, you can kind of become irrelevant in the States. You don't interact with as many people. The elderly are not well regarded in the States. Your wisdom, your experience, all of that. So, if you want to stay in the game, States is going to be hard. We're not the only place that's like that. There are lots of places where older adults just have a harder time really integrating into society because society is looking for youth and vigor and all of that. Philippines isn't really like that. It's a slower pace. There's just there's more comfort with differences, and that can be appealing. That's sort of a tangential thought, but I do think that traveling to the states, traveling to the state, traveling to the Philippines, traveling to the Philippines, I definitely want to do. Thinking about it as a long-term option is intriguing. This is the first thought of something that would take a whole lot of research to really understand, but there is an appeal there. So the Philippines is off for now. And actually, I'll have to rethink some other things because depending upon the timing, the Philippines could get significantly delayed. I have family spread out all around the world. I have a sister who's in Togo, Africa, who I need to actually meet. Long story there, but we've never actually met in person. I have a brother in France. I have family in Germany, out in Bremen. And then I've got family all over. I actually have a niece and nephew in Canada now. and then I've got family spread out all over the United States. So um, June can be tricky because of other travel that I want to do this year with family. And mm, yeah, this is actually, huh, I've really got to take a look at what this calendar is going to look like because depending upon when my ex takes her vacation, Cebu might not work this year. And that is just hitting me. Hopefully, that's not the case. 8 days in the Philippines is still something that excites me. But now we're starting to talk about trade offs. If I do that, there are other things that I can't do this year. Um, yeah, that that's a problem. So if you're thinking about a trip to the Philippines, I've tried to drop some ideas on places to go, things to do, things that I would do if I were there. You do you, but hopefully the content triggers thoughts about things you can do. And some of the day trips, Cebu to Manila, really aren't that hard. There are locations like Davao um, and White Beach that I normally would not have thought about at all, but that really rose up on my priority list given what I found out about them. And there are people to connect with. Um, of the people I've reached out to, the one who got back to me and was helpful was a regular guy. I might need to drop him a super chat. I never super chat people. Personally, I've never seen the point before, but he answered a lot of questions for me. Was very informative, very forthcoming. He actually pulled up some research, asked him one question. He did a cut and paste of some data that I would find useful specifically about the Philippines. And I was telling him that my big concern was that I can meet someone, but my life is here in the States, and it looks like it's really hard to bring a woman from the Philippines to the States unless you are getting married to her, which someone you've only known long distance, that's not going to happen. Then it just doesn't seem to work. And he didn't hold back. He kind of said, what, it's next to impossible. Here's the data. This is what you're up against. And I realized, it's even harder than I thought. It's not impossible, but given my life, it's just not practical. So living in the Philippines would give me the kind of life I want. But that's not doable because I have a kid. And I think that my daughter would have a better life growing up in the States because there's more opportunity for her here. You just look at the incomes in the Philippines and the structure. It's a great place to go as an American because your dollars, you're taking your dollars someplace where they will go far. But growing up there, you're basically growing up in an economically disadvantaged area. Um, why grow up with that if you can grow up with opportunity? It's not like that would be an option for me anyway. But if you're planning a trip to Cebu or the Philippines, and any of the information that I've shared has sparked some ideas for you about where you want to go, drop a chat. If you got questions, let me know. Happy to help anybody work through any of the research that I've done because there are some things to think about just with travel and options while you're there. And other than that, we will see. I'm going to have to rethink when I travel, and hopefully that's still sometime this year. Last Good Men in Jersey signing out for now. Hopefully coming back with a new travel series once I can figure out when that would be.